Hello, my friend, and welcome or welcome back. Um, yeah, today we continue with another video on the series that I have started on the thumbnail generation system that I am currently building. This is in fact the third article that I'm writing concerning this new system. In case you have not seen that before, we actually started with the first article on how you could extract background. So there's a movie recording for that, so you could have a look if you want to know more about this. Last time what I did is another article concerning the introduction of the support for DrawSVG, which is a Python library you can use to generate any kind of SVG content, which is absolutely great. And now we will basically continue on this in this direction, so trying to get to use the DrawSVG library a bit more to actually generate some content. So yes, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Yeah, okay, let's just get through a review of what was added first, and then I probably end the recording with a small experiment, because I actually need to generate a thumbnail for the previous recording, so we'll see how we can use the system that we are implementing to do that. Anyway, what I need to mention first here is yeah, this common element support. This is in fact something very cool that I have just added, and I think the easiest option is maybe to show you what is the difference between before and after. So take for instance those two files. Those are the thumbnail generation. I mean, it's actually more than just a thumbnail. It's also providing the description and everything I want to store for a given YouTube video, in fact, because yes, the absolute target at the end is to be able to post my video for YouTube directly with a command line from Python. So I would use such configuration file to provide all the details for those automatic posts if you want. It's actually kind of working already. I have something that I can use to try to send the video on YouTube using those files. The video will reach my YouTube channel, except that there is some kind of new policy on YouTube which is actually preventing you from using the system and making the final video public. So everything you're going to send with the YouTube data API, I think it's YouTube data API, I don't quite remember, everything you send with that is considered private, and you can't really change the state, which is not absolutely true. In fact, you can, but you need to go through a complete process of validating your channel, getting YouTube to confirm that yes, you are actually a real guy, it's not a bot sending things automatically. Well, it's a bit complex. Eventually I do that, but not right now. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I just wanted to show you, this is the part concerning the thumbnail generation, which was for the Nerveland recording number 16. So we can maybe have a look at what we have for those outputs. Nerveland number 16, so that's the one. So this was generated with this kind of description here. So you see I have a title description, a subtitle. I'm providing some details concerning how I want to, oops, don't try that, come on. I want to render the subtitle, but you could do also the same thing for the title part. And then I have a section where I had some images. In this case, I'm just adding my face and drawing some outlines, and yeah, you could also scale this a little bit, apply a mirror effect to flip left and right, and so on. This is actually still working in theory. let's just have a look right now. So the command to execute that is gen thumb, and I'm using the NVL 016. Let's say I'm making a copy just in case I'm really breaking everything. Let's call that original. Oh man, what did I do? I made the copy already. Okay. And now we execute that command. Ha ha ha. Gen thumb, of course. So yeah, it actually did generate the image. Let's see, it's supposed to be exactly the same thing. I didn't. Oh no, there's something that is actually different now, which is the outline, because this previous image was generated with the old outline system, I guess, and this was updated, so it's actually making it bigger now with the same setting. So I need to reduce maybe a bit this setting. I think this is what I did, in fact, in the next iteration. So let's see, where do I have the face? Yeah, it's not even defined here because now I'm using those common elements. I'm going to explain that. Just maybe let me try to change the outline first. So let's try with outline of 10 pixel in this one. Okay, and regenerate again. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same thing as in the previous image anyway, but I can yeah, try to make it a bit smaller. It's funny that I have this kind of effect here. It's not using same image, I guess. Yes, I think, yeah, I have been regenerating those image, and I have a small artifact here. Not a big deal. So yeah, I could keep reducing the outline size to get back to this, but you get the idea anyway. Okay, so as you can see, the initial version was pretty small in the hand, so that was cool. And now in the new version, it's not so small anymore. I have quite a lot of content, but the mechanism, in fact, is completely different because I'm now using those this concept of elements, and you can basically inherit from existing element. So we have, for instance, here we are adding a background element. In fact, before you could only add one background, and you had to provide this background, and it was a specific behavior for this specific image. Now it's not the case anymore. The background is in fact just another image that you can add in your composition to generate your thumbnail. And in fact, the order of in which you add those elements is going to define the order in which they will appear. So if you put the background first, it will be behind everything else, of course. So if we just have a look now at the definition of what is this background base, you will find that in the command file here, and we have this entry background. So in this file we define two types of elements: the templates, which are element templates that you can use to build new elements on top of those existing ones, and also a list of parameters. So parameters is another thing that I added later. I think there's a dedicated section for that. Not quite. So maybe I need to mention that here also. I mean, yes, it's mentioned here at least. Yes. So parameters are basically what we have here. You can have elements, and those elements, you may have a location where you use parameters if you don't want to hard code a specific value Then you would define a parameter for that value. And then whenever you are to generate a new file, for instance this one, you can just override in fact those parameters. So yeah, if I take the example of the text here, so title or title background, they're both using the text pointing to the title parameter. So by default, title should be no title. But when I'm building this thumbnail here, I'm overriding title to be the string. So whenever I use then the yeah, I'm using title, right? It's the same thing as title, and here I'm not even using title background anymore. Okay, but you get the idea. When I use title right, I'm going to use the title parameter to replace the text content. And that was not even what I was supposed to mention. I was on the background first. Sorry, I'm mixing a lot of stuff together. So for the background, I said that this was the template we would use, and this is just defining that you want to fill the complete area of the thumbnail. So the size of this image is going to be 100% of the thumbnail size. The resize mode you're going to use is fill, which means that if you are given an external image with a given aspect ratio, and this aspect ratio doesn't match the aspect ratio of the thumbnail itself, since you want to use complete thumbnail size, it's going to fill this area by growing your image to ensure that in both dimensions you're covering the complete area. You have different modes. You could use, for instance, also fit. Fit is a bit of the opposite. It's going to use your content and ensure that it's filling the area, but you're not increasing the size of this content to necessarily completely fill this area. Is that clear? Probably not that clear. Would be better if I could do some drawings, but yeah, we'll probably give it a try anyway. What else? And you define the position, which is the top left corner, and the entry point for your image, and the background color you would like to use for this image. In this case is completely green, and I put this way to ensure that I could test this feel and fit features, because basically if you're filling your background here, you're never going to see this color. So normally there should be no green pixel at all. And yeah, this is how you define those elements. You could just say that you want to use a background as base next, and you can add additional entries in this element. So for instance, I can specify the source for the image I want to use only here, and everything else would be inherited from this previous template. And if I specify an entry here, it's also going to override entries that would be defined in the background template if they were already present in the background template. And the nice thing is you can cascade those this inheritance tree, because if you go, for instance, I think I have that here, yes, for the SVG stuff, for instance, I have a SVG base, which is going to provide some elements like SVG size set to auto, origin, and anchor. And then you have the SVG arrow, which is another element, and this one is using SVG base as a base. And later on, I think, in fact, I have that, it's this one. Here I'm going to add an element which is using SVG arrow as base, but I'm overriding some of the stuff defined in the previous parents. So you can basically have as many parents as you want, and so you can build pretty complex hierarchies this way, I guess. Anyway, That was for the basic overview of it. What else did I mention here? So the first template I tried to introduce was the title background, and I introduced this parameter at the same time. And to use that, I'm now also loading this file before I'm doing any kind of processing in the thumbnail generator. So we can have a look at this part. So whenever you are to process this gen thumb command, you're going to retrieve your YouTube description folder. This part is in fact defined not here. It's defined in the config file where I have this script written. So let's see. Gen thumbnail, you're going to call thumbnail generator with this command line argument, and as an additional environment variable, I'm specifying where I'm supposed to find all the descriptions that I have for the different recordings. And so when I have this path, I can yeah, it's leading me to this location, so it's going to find this common YAML file. And once you have that, you keep, you're populating an internal list of templates, and you can then keep loading your dedicated configuration here. And you can override again the parameters, or you can start building specific elements using the existing templates. Okay, I'm going here a bit through the details of how I implemented that. Wait a second, what is this entry? That can't be true. It can't be working anyway. Let's try that. Probably a typo when I wrote this. Yes. Okay, let me fix this typo. All right, fixed. Next, what do? We have this inject base, because whenever you are adding a new element, you get description and you inject any kind of existing base if there is. And this is done recursively, so it's going to, you see, call inject base again. Then we do something similar for the parameters. We go through all the description, and whenever we find a parameter name with this dollar curly parenthesis, then you do a replacement. And that's how I could then build this this kind of minimal example first. And in the end, it was not much longer than the previous implementation, in fact. It's just that in the specific case, I was then adding more elements. Okay, and what else should I mention? Introducing support for layer resizing. This was something also that was definitely needed anyway and was not fully ready yet. Basically, for all those elements, whenever you generate one of them, I added support to specify the final size that you want. So the size that you provide is relative to the complete thumbnail itself. So when I say, for instance, that I want a size of 30% and 30% also here, it's going to generate an image or load an existing image and ensure that this image would be resized to fit this area on your thumbnail, using also this resize mode. Sorry, I should have removed this part. Okay. So yeah, and it's built in a generic way, which means that you can apply that, for instance, when you're loading an image, but you can also apply that For a title is not really an image because you don't provide an image loaded from the hard drive. You're rather generating a text. But the text in the end is going to be considered an image, and you can just manipulate that the same way in the end. And it's also true for any kind of SVG content that is generated dynamically, because this again will generate an image in the end, so you can just resize that final image before you insert that into the thumbnail. Okay, so that's it concerning the resizing. So resize layer, that's where we have a chance to apply this fit or fill resize mode transformation. You can also just use stretch. Stretch is going, as it said, to fill the destination size both in width and height, and distort your source image if there is a need to distort it. And last section I wanted to cover is concerning the those SVG elements, but it's not really well complete yet, so I have to add some elements on this part. But we can still have a look at that, and we can describe what is going on. So let's say you take the NVL17 as a template. Okay, I had been modifying that with a contour here previously, so let's say we remove that. This would be on the logo here for Qt, and there's no contour anymore, so just regenerating the image should get rid of the red contour. Yep. And so the interesting thing here is this arrow. First, the Qt part here, this is just an ordinary image. So I'm reading that from the inputs, logo, Qt. I think I mentioned that in the previous recording already. Same for the WASM logo. But for the arrow part, it's a different story. So this arrow here, this is actually generated with SVG. So where is it? It's this one. How do we do the generation? We have a type parameter, and this type parameter is actually going to be used to link to what I call an SVG generator in the generation process. So when you go at the top of the ThumbGen component here, you'll see that currently we are registering two different generators, one for the arrow and another one for a curved arrow. And these are pointing to function in a dedicated file, because otherwise those functions are actually pretty big in the end, so it's going to take a lot of space. And the idea is really I will provide a separate generator for any kind of content that you may want to generate dynamically with some parameters. So an arrow is a typical case where you have a list of parameters, but you could think about any kind of procedural generation in the end. So I think it's probably not a good idea to go through all the details here, but you can control, for instance, the arrow body size or the arrow head size, and we can try some modification about that. So let's say we'll go on this one, and so I'm using the curve arrow, and I would like to make the head of the arrow a bit bigger. So I'm going to modify the height value of this arrow. So let's say I put 50 in this case, and do the generation again. And now you see that, yeah, my head is getting bigger, except that it's getting so big that I'm actually going outside of the area I was planning for for the display of this SVG element. So yeah, you have to take that into consideration, I guess. How do I change the size? The SVG size. I don't quite remember. But anyway, we can change other parameters, like for instance, the colors. So we see that we have the fill color, for instance. So you could go here and say, okay, for this one, the fill color, I want it to be yellow. And again, it's going to regenerate your arrow with yellow. So yes, this is it concerning the support for SVG. Currently, we only have a couple of elements, sure, but yeah, eventually I'm going to add more of those SVG elements, and I'm going to be able to reuse them from one thumbnail to another, which is great. Let's say also I could change here the type from curved arrow to simply arrow, and I think if I keep everything else the same, it's going to be okay, because those two SVG elements are using the same parameters. Nope. Why type arrow is missing? Are you kidding me? Okay, we have an interesting thing here. Oh. Yeah. Of course. That's absolutely crazy. So this is how you do it. And now, yes, I should have the straight arrow. Except that, yeah, I should position that differently also if I use it. Anyway. Okay, 27 minutes. So I think it's okay if we stop just here. I had planned to demonstrate how to use the system to generate a new thumbnail, but I think you get the idea already. I'm going to add different objects like that and change the configuration progressively. I will anyway make another recording probably on how to use this from scratches, but this should go in a dedicated recording. So for now, I think it's okay. And anyway, if you have any question on that, you can just ask in the comments. And otherwise, as usual, happy coding and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.